Since the last video, I've done a small bit of work on this. I've changed all the frost plugs in the engine, and I put a new one of these pipes on it. This is the water pipe that runs along the front of the engine. Put that on, it was a bit rusty, and a new water pump. That's pretty much it, not really much. I'm going to put a new time belt on it and set up the timing. I'm not going to use standard timing, it's going to be slightly different, so it makes it a bit awkward setting the timing up. I have to put a big wheel on it to find top dead center, and then use a dial gauge on the cam to find out exactly where my cam time is going to be. First thing I'm going to do is find top dead center on the crank. I don't have a time belt on, so the cam isn't going to move. Nothing's fully open, so nothing should interfere with the pistons or anything like that. I find the easiest way to find TDC is I'm going to put a spark plug in. It's a long reach spark plug. It'll actually go down and interfere with the piston. It'll touch the piston. So I'm going to put it in, turn the crank around till it touches the piston touches the spark plug, mark this, then go backwards till it touches it again, mark it, and in between the two marks is going to be TDC. I'm going to take the spark plug back out again and put this pointer in between these two marks that I have marked here. That is TDC. I move this just around till it's in the middle of them two marks, and then I'll move this whole adjuster around so it's pointing at TDC. Probably could have put that around a little bit better. Actually, yeah, I'll take this back off again and I'll adjust it around so TDC is over to this side, so I don't have to move this arm as much. If I actually look, I can see the original time marks on the crank pulley, and it's not really pointing at the time marks, it's a little bit off. I've swung the cam timing around, so it's at the time marks. The crank pulley is almost at the time marks, but I know it's at TDC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the time belt on and check at what degree we have full lift on the cam. I think the standard cam settings for this is full lift at 110 degrees after TDC. That's not quite what I usually run on these, but that's what Newman cams spec for this cam. So we'll just check what it is at the minute before we modify anything. Okay, I have a time belt on it now. It's at standard timing. I'm going to turn the engine around and stop it at full lift on the intake cam on the first one it fires on, which is cylinder 4. So it should be 110 degrees after TDC. We should have full lift at this. Still at 0 there. One past 0, 108, still the same, so I'm at full lift, 110. I'm going back now, I'm going to 111 and starting to go back. So full lift is between 107 and 110. I'll just check that again. Zero. 107. This was past 0, so I'll 0 that again. Right, that's 0. And 107. Still at 0 at 108. Still at 0 at 109. 110. Yeah, still at 0. Right, we're moving backwards off 0 now at 111. So full lift between 107 and 110-ish. 108.5, which is probably about right. 110 is what's spec'd for this cam, but that gives good mid-range. So what I'm going to do is actually retard the cam slightly and aim for about 114. Doesn't really give you any more horsepower like that, but it just moves the torque further up in the rev range. That 866 cam that's in it has really good mid-range and it pulls really well up to about 6,000, but it dies after 6,000 RPM. If you retard the cam timing a good bit, about 5 or 6 degrees, you can get it to keep making power up to about 7,000. It doesn't make any more power, it just moves the power further up the rev range. So I'm going to try and get full lift at about 114 degrees after TDC. That's about 4 degrees further retarded than the manufacturer specify, but it seems to work best on dyno. And I'll put the car on the dyno and I can swing it from standard timing back to 114 and see which makes the most horsepower. We're not allowed to change the cam pulley to a vernier, it has to be standard parts, but we're allowed to modify the dowel that holds this onto the cam. I know from doing other engines, if I take about a mil off this dowel, I'll gain about 5 degrees of cam timing, or lose 5 degrees, depending on which way you're going. So I'm going to just grind a mil off the one side of this, and I can leave this at the standard timing marks, and I can get the cam and rotate the cam back to get the right timing marks. So that's what I'm going to do now, and then I'll check all this all over again. This is a spare cam I have. I've modified the little keyway in this, and that's as much movement as you have. It's only about a third of a tooth. So it's probably about 11.5 will be full lift. I actually want to go a bit more than that, so I brought it from about 8.5 to 11.5. So I think I'm going to take this back off and I'll grind another little bit out of it. Right, I machined a little bit more off that. I took a little bit more off the keyway. See where we are now. That's 110. 111. We're not at full lift yet. Just getting to full lift now, and I'm at 113. That's 113 and a half full lift. 115, still a full lift. 116, still a full lift. Starting to go back down again at 117. So 113 to 117. So maybe a little bit over it, about 115 and a half. I think what I'll do is I'll leave it at that. I'll put it on the dyno with that. Too much, I can always bring it back a bit. I've the engine back in and I'm putting all the wiring loom back in. Loads of the wiring loom is all taken apart. It's out of the protective shield, and there's loads of wires cut and then taped together. There's one there as well, and then there's this going on here as well. Not really too sure what's happening with the wiring loom, but there's loads of extra wires everywhere. But the standard engine wiring loom seems to be there, just taken apart a bit. I'll put it in, but I'm not too sure what's happening with all the other wires. It's making 67 horsepower, but it's dropping off at about 5,500. It starts to just drop off, and it's only revving to 6.5, which it should rev to 7.2. So when they're chipped, they usually rev to 7.2. So I think the chip in the ECU isn't working, or it's not chipped.
I brought the car back home and I fit my ECU from my Cento into it. The car ran much better. I did open up the ECU and have a look, and it is chipped, but it's a chip I never seen before, so I'm not too sure if it's actually working at all. So what I'm going to do is order a new chip, and I'll have to bring it back to the dyno again some other day.